Tonight on Let's Talk About Health, it's all about sleep.
Jade took 51 minutes to go into her first dream sleep. People who dream earlier actually are more prone to depression, emotional anxieties and things like that.
Yes. It's like that.
And we share the story about how a major school exam has affected a young woman's sleep for about 15 years.
Inside, you just feel emotionless or empty, being very anxious, being depressed.
I need to sleep first before he sleep, because if he sleep first, then he'll be snoring and I couldn't sleep.
Plus, if you snore or know someone who snores, we have the solution for you right here on
Let's Talk About Health.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show.
You know what, Mike? There is a saying, which I'm sure that we don't abide by. A person should get at least 8 hours of sleep.
And I wonder, is the 8 hours of sleep a night, is that a myth?
You know what? Let's find out with our guests this evening. Sheila Sim, Jade, Seah, and Dr. Kenny Phang. Hey guys, what's up?
Hey,
How are you?
Good.
Long walk, long walk.
It is a long walk. I felt like that's a long walk.
Yeah.
Yes, ready to sleep.
Welcome, you guys. I mean, just a quick one. Who here gets 8 hours of sleep a day?
I have a 2-year-old too, so not me.
It's a no.
It's a luxury. How does one get 8 hours of sleep? Then how do you do anything else?
So most people don't sleep 8 hours, I mean, especially adults. But I want to say that really depends on the age group because like newborn babies, they should be sleeping about at least 10 to 15 hours per day. And young children, maybe toddlers, should be sleeping at least 10 to 12. And adolescents, teenagers should be at least sleeping about 8 to 10 hours per day.
They probably sleep the least.
Yeah.
That's true. The irony in that.
It's a different time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So for adults, yes, about 7 to 8 hours would definitely be adequate.
So I've got a question here. Can I sleep like 3 hours and I make it up later on with like 5 hours?
I always feel like you can.
Can I?
I tell myself it's okay, like you run on 2 hours, you get another 2 hours, it's 4 hours, not so bad.
Yeah, psychologically it helps.
Your question to me is whether you can do sleep catch-up. Well, actually you can in the sense that for example, I send the children to school every morning. So I wake up at 6 a.m. But sometimes on weekends, I sleep a bit more. So you kind of try to catch up with your sleep. And that makes you feel better, actually.
So there's been times when I do catch up and it feels great. But then there's times when I sleep 10 hours and
Yeah, you wake up
and I
still more
good 10 hours.
tired.
Not bad.
The key issue is to sleep regularly and to sleep during the time when melatonin is high in your brain. It comes out about 11 p.m. and peaks about 1 or 2 a.m. and starts to dwindle after that. So that's the time to go to sleep. During the time when you sleep, when your melatonin levels are high, your sleep quality is also better. Because sleep is divided into dream sleep and non-dream sleep, see?
Okay.
So
Is that REM?
That's right. It's called rapid eye movement, which is REM sleep, REM sleep. And dream sleep, studies have shown that it's very important in rejuvenation, well-being, memory, as well as so-called focus and concentration, productivity as well. Most of our dream sleep is clustered in the later half of the night. So for example, if you go to bed at 2 a.m. and you wake up at 6, you only slept 4 hours. So you lose your later half of the night, which means you lose a lot of dream sleep.
Okay.
So you wake up very tired.
I have nightmares. Is that considered as dreaming?
No, all forms of dreams are good. Maybe if you have too many, too often nightmares, it means that not you, but that person may be emotionally disturbed, but doesn't really mean that your sleep quality is bad.
You guys, I think this conversation can go on forever. We clearly have a lot of questions, but from sleeping too little to not being able to sleep at all. Now, that's a story we have tonight about a young woman who has struggled with insomnia for the past 15 years.
And also, does snoring in your sleep mean that you're really, really tired? We're going to find out right after the break. Welcome back to Let's Talk About Health. Right now, we're going to hit the streets and answer your questions about sleep. Okay, we got Stingray with us. Hi, Stingray. Okay, what's your question for Bernice?
I would like to know if it's okay for me to watch my phone before I go to sleep.
I guess it kind of depends on how long you take to fall asleep, whether playing with your phone affects your sleep. In general, if you wake up refreshed, your energy levels are quite consistent throughout the day, go ahead. Although many studies say that blue light in general isn't great for good quality sleep.
How's your sleep generally?
Sleep's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
Usually I sleep about 1:30 a.m. and I wake up like 5 a.m. I woke up already. That's why if you see I have like a panda eyes here. So what you can do for me?
My question is also what you do generally about 2 hours before you go to sleep. Are you still working?
No, I try not to work but I ease my mind with playing games.
I think the idea here is not to completely cut out the gaming. That's not really realistic.
Find a better game, because if you're falling asleep during you're not playing the right game.
You're right.
Or an even more important point, maybe stop like about maybe half an hour before you are actually going to prepare to go to sleep, because your mind is kind of eased into a state of rest rather than, I'm not sure what games you play. Most games are pretty stimulating. I think one of the reasons why you wake up, I think, like early, or when you wake up not feeling really refreshed, is because you're not getting enough deep sleep, not just the number of hours. Thank you so much for being such a good sport.
Oh man,
You see that though? You see when my head went down? I actually fell asleep.
Wow, my power nap. That was a power nap right there. Joining us live in the studio now is Bernice. Thank you so much for being here and for answering the questions on the street as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Bernice, in your line of work, what's one of the most common reasons that people struggle with sleep-related issues?
Straight up anxiety. So anxiety in all its forms, whether you are very anxious about the upcoming work week, or whether it's a difficult conversation with a family member, or sleep anxiety itself.
Well, Bernice, we've had a chance to catch up with one of your patients, and this woman hasn't had a good night's sleep for years. Here's her story.
I haven't slept properly for the last 15 years of my life when I started studying for O-levels. I used to stay up late to study or to do homework, and then that eventually became a lifestyle when it came to school, staying up late to study, which I think then fed into this whole insomniac. And it came to the point where even if I wanted to sleep early, I just couldn't. I constantly wake up feeling tired, and then that just goes on and affects the rest of my day, because it's a domino effect on everything that I do throughout the day, whether I'm working or not working. It's just exhausting being tired. It keeps me unmotivated. I don't want to do anything. Things that used to excite me are just seen as like burdens now, then feeds into the depression. Inside, you just feel emotionless or empty. I have a few breakdowns. I've definitely locked myself in my room and just cried, or laid in bed as I'm trying to sleep and just like broken down. Self-control to make sure nobody sees those breakdowns, because that leads to even more anxiety thinking about having to explain my life and my feelings to people. My family doesn't know anything about my issues, about my anxiety, about my depression. It was mostly the stigma, and also I really don't want them to worry. I've tried to tire myself out, like I'm working out in the evening so that I'll be tired enough to sleep. I've tried listening to music to sleep, watching TV to have some background noise to fall asleep. Nothing ever really worked. Earlier this year, I was like, I'm done. I'm tired of feeling tired, and it made me frustrated because I love my job and I wanted to keep loving it. I wanted to keep being passionate about it and not lose that in my life. And that was kind of finally what pushed me to look for help. It definitely felt scary because there's someone who can point out my issues to me, but I will say for the last month and a half, I've been sleeping really well. I wake up feeling refreshed. I find my passion for my work has come back. I find myself excited to do things. And I find myself also thinking about how I can build my career in this company that I have. So those thoughts were usually very hard to think about. So not breaking out of that thought process has been very joyous for me. I think finding help and getting help was one of the best decisions I've made in my life.
And Bernice, I'm curious, have you seen a spike in sleep-related issues since the pandemic?
Yes, a very big bulk of my patients have sleep issues together with other issues as well.
Well, that's got to feel good. I mean, going from that to a month of sleep must just be fantastically wonderful feeling. Okay, so we have a plethora of items here on the table, and we want to ask you some questions about it. Let's start with the good old stuff at the end there.
Yes, so I think we're just gonna go through and find out whether it helps with sleep or not.
It's not a coincidence that it's in front of them.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why.
Okay, let's start with alcohol. So, you guys, maybe the experts can let us know.
Yes.
Is alcohol helpful with sleep?
What do you guys think? Okay.
Hell yes.
Yeah, you drink to a certain point, you get a bit sleepy, then you.
Right.
Okay.
Right?
But alcohol doesn't give you good quality sleep.
Yeah.
You may fall asleep very fast because alcohol actually deprives the cells of oxygen. So for example, if you
That's why it feels so good.
That's, maybe. So that's why if you drink too much, you can't drive because you can't coordinate. Your reflexes are all gone. So if you drink too much, your muscles are more paralyzed and they are weaker. So you tend to stop breathing during sleep.
Oh my god.
Oh my
It
god.
affects deep sleep. It affects deep sleep.
But you say a lot, so if it's a little bit, then it helps with
Yeah, like a glass of wine, right?
Yeah, a glass of wine.
Everything in moderation.
Yes, thank you, Sonny.
Now we have, you know, the melatonin here.
I'm always paranoid if I take this, I will not be able to wake up. I'll get so sleepy and drowsy.
Sure, it works differently for different people.
Okay.
But yes, melatonin, I encourage my patients to take it, especially when they travel because of the time zone difference. So they take it about an hour before they sleep. Absorption takes about an hour. And melatonin has its good effects as well
But
as
would you not get
antioxidant.
dependent on it?
Okay, good question. It's more a psychological dependence rather than a more physiological dependence. So melatonin is pretty safe. Yeah.
Okay, what about this really comfortable looking pillow right here? I mean, seriously, like I need a good pillow to sleep, right? As opposed to being on an uncomfortable surface.
Yeah,
Passing out on the couch or
Are you guys
something.
pillow? Yes, you need a good, you're like a particular pillow?
I'm really not particular.
Which is why she doesn't sleep anywhere.
Yeah, to me it's like where my head lays. It could be on the tent, on the ground,
You
on
are
a bus.
an adventure woman. I love it. So tell us, pillow, is it important? Type of pillow?
Well, it varies for different individuals, but I want to say that it does help in terms of sleep quality as long as you don't wake up with neck aches and back aches. So a good mattress and a good pillow really helps, but it really varies. It's too variable for, you know, everybody. So I would say that, yes, please, if you can afford the pillow, please go ahead.
Reading, does that help? Because some of these titles going to keep me awake, guys.
I think it's important not to have any stimulating material. So you've got a really good book. It's really exciting.
Not my ex-wife.
In general, maybe that's going to stimulate you rather than ease you into a state of rest.
I have a biography if you guys need it.
No, but I have a little copy of The Little Prince. I've read it multiple times, so I just use it as like a, you know, something to read before I fall asleep. So I read it so many times that it doesn't stimulate me anymore.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
I think that helps.
Bernice, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a wealth of information. We appreciate you being here. All right, guys, coming up, it's all about snoring in your sleep. Is it a bad thing? Can it be a serious problem? We'll find out. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About Health. Now, we got a question for the room here right now. And you have to be truthful about it, okay?
Okay.
Do you guys snore at night? He does. Okay.
Not that I know
self-awareness.
of.
How about you, Jade?
Well, people have said that I snore, but I think they're all lying. Around me are all liars. Everyone I've ever roomed with is a liar.
So Jade snores.
Yeah, basically, she does.
I always thought that snoring meant that I was just like extremely tired, but I was getting good sleep. But apparently that's not true, and here's why.
I need to sleep first before he sleep, because if he sleep first, then he'll be snoring and I couldn't sleep. It sounds like an F1 car running past by you. And it is not just the sound, but it's kind of like he stopped breathing for a second. It's pretty scary though, yeah.
I work in the banking industry. I must say, soon you come home exhausted because the day has been so hectic. You just can't jump into bed and sleep right away.
I didn't get a lot of sleep or enough sleep, I would say, in the past. I need to sleep first before he sleep, because if he sleep first, then he'll be snoring and I couldn't sleep. Terrible. I mean, people from downstairs can hear him snore. Seriously. And then not only David had the problem, my son also had a problem.
When I was 13, from what I remember, trying to fall asleep was quite difficult because having a flu 24/7, when you have a flu, your nose is very stuffy and runny, right? I had to breathe through my mouth most of the time. So just imagine that feeling extending throughout 13 years of your life.
Back in 2013, then she happened to stumble upon an article by Dr. Kenny Pang.
Reason why people snore is because they have extra redundant tissue in the oral cavity. For example, people who snore like that, there is a redundant tissue In terms of its uvula, the palate is very thick, so it starts to vibrate. And a lot of people who snore can be normal. Because of the extra redundant tissue, some patients actually stop breathing in their sleep. So they actually snore and they do this. So suddenly the airway closes and then they breathe out and it opens up on them. This is called obstructive sleep apnea.
When we went for checkup with Dr. Kenny Pang, and he do a scope, Hector, one of the nostril is totally blocked. The other nostril is a pinhole. That is why air cannot go in. That is why he has to breathe through his mouth. Really shocked, only one pinhole in one of the nostrils. That's it. I saw it with my own eyes, one black dot, that's it. Yeah, I felt sorry for him, right? How could I not know earlier?
For Hector, his main problem was actually his tonsils were quite big, as well as his sinus turbinates as well. For David, because his obstruction was mainly in the nose and the palate as well.
Dr. Pang asked bring a machine home.
Like a mask, a breathing thing, then attached to a machine. It looks scary because you are like in a ventilator. It looks scary.
And quite troublesome if you go for trips.
Yeah, then
because you have to lug the machine along with you.
So I can't imagine David and Hector having to breathe through a machine every night. So I think though surgery is more invasive, I think it's more permanent solution.
So what I did was I reduced David's sinus turbinates, his septum, I straightened it for him, his adenoids as well as his thick palate. What I do is that I rotate some muscles within the oropharynx or the oral cavity itself, and I rotate the muscles laterally, superiorly and anteriorly, that means more upwards in front, and I stitch it down as well. So that kind of like to open the airway permanently, and they both did very well post-operatively.
After the surgery, everything is better, quality sleep, wife also happier. So no more complaining, no more nudging me in the middle of the night. She enjoy better quality, more well rest.
Definitely grateful for my parents and Dr. Pang for helping me with this problem. Cannot imagine having to live with that problem up until now.
Well, one thing's for sure, love knows no boundaries. Sorry, I had to drop that one. Secondly, from this video alone, it is clear that it could be hereditary, is it?
Yes. In fact, snoring and sleep apnea is very hereditary. If you're born with a small jaw, very common in Chinese, Asians especially.
Oh, so this could be from race to race?
Yes,
different.
absolutely.
Biology.
Because of the smaller jaw. In fact, you find that Caucasians have a bigger, nicer jaw. And if those patients with a smaller jaw, inside the airway tends to be more congested. So they have not much space. So can you imagine if he puts on a little bit of weight, let's say 5 to 10 kilos, the airway inside gets even more narrow. And this is reflected in his children because his children will look like him. And that is why snoring and sleep apnea is very genetic.
Okay, but I'm curious to know as well, do Sheila and Jade have sleep apnea?
Me too, I'm very curious. Use that thing.
Yeah.
Sheila and Jade used the sleep test, which is very simple. They brought it home, they put it on their hand. It's called the watch pad. It basically monitors their sleep patterns and the dream sleep as well. Let's start with Sheila's study. And if you look...
By the way, for the record, they have not seen their results, okay? So here they are, yeah.
So if you look at Sheila's study, you can see on the screen, basically, in general, we measure sleep apnea, or the number of times you stop breathing, from a range, if you look at the bottom, from 5 to 15 is mild. That means below 5 is normal. So a normal person does stop breathing about less than 5 times per hour. So if you look at the chart, 5 to 15 is mild, 15 to 30 is moderate, and more than 30 is severe. So if you look at Sheila's one, she does stop breathing about 4 to 7 times, as in apnea-hypopnea index. So that's pretty normal, in fact. I mean, the results are quite good. Yours is basically normal to mild.
What about Jade? Yeah.
Let's look at Jade's study.
Can I just caveat that this was a bad night because I went out to party that night. I was going to do it the night before. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to party. Then the next night it was an impromptu party. So it was kind of like not the best night to record
You're
this.
not making excuses for a grade here. You're just
well,
like this, right?
Looking at Jade's test, if you notice the study start time, she started at 6:40 a.m.
I didn't know that it would record my start. I thought it would just record the number of hours I slept.
And she stopped it at about 10:56 a.m. So you know that that's not a good time to sleep. But if you look carefully, the number of times she stops breathing is about 10.9, maybe about 11. This is what we call upper airway resistance. You do sound a bit nasal, forgive me for saying.
Yes.
But because of that, you are a mouth breather. And because you're a mouth breather, when you open your jaw, the jaw joint tends to rotate backwards, your tongue tends to fall backwards. So you can tell that you do stop breathing actually, although not severe. Yeah, not severe. But if you look at the next page, take a look at the dream REM latency, the number that says 51.
Yeah.
Yes, Jade took 51 minutes to go into her first dream sleep. Some studies have shown the normal range of dream latency should be about 60 to 90 minutes. So the people who dream earlier actually are more prone to depression, emotional anxieties and things like that.
How come it's like that?
Very brilliant question. Because, you know, our midbrain, known as the hippocampal region, the limbic system, the amygdala, is in charge of dream sleep. And so is depression, emotion, being temperamental. So we believe that these patients who are more prone or high incidence of depression, their dream center or the emotional center tends to be a bit more active. May I ask, do you grind your teeth and are you a clencher since?
No, I'm not. But I mean, like, I definitely am I have not been able to breathe through my nose for as far as I can remember, even as a child. And when I have a cold, eating is tough because I got to eat and breathe at the same time.
Because you know that our nasal obstruction varies from day to day, right? If you have more allergies that day, your nose tends to be more blocked. Then you tend to open your mouth. But if you are a clencher or teeth grinder, you tend to bite down quite hard. Patients, ladies especially, have this condition called upper airway resistance syndrome. That means that they tend to bite down very hard when they sleep. And the reason is they have nose block. Because imagine, normal people breathe like that. But if I had a nasal obstruction, I tend to breathe like that. If you look at my neck, it collapses inwards. So an instinctive behavior
you need
is
to bite down.
Clever girl.
Right.
Instinctive behavior is for you to bite down to keep the airway open.
This is making so much sense.
This is giving me so much anxiety, guys. I think I'm going to have problems sleeping tonight.
You guys would have tons of questions, but Doctor, do you have any advice off the top of your head right now that you can give to them while we're on the show?
Well, in general, you should try to, avoid the allergies or the allergens that you're allergic to.
I don't know what I'm allergic to. I need another episode just for allergens.
Dr. Pang, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you very much.
Sheila, Jade, you guys are awesome. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. That's all the time we have, but we will see you next time on Let's Talk About Health.
Check out all of MediaCorp's digital platforms for more content in an exclusive online series called We Need to Talk About This.
I've noticed some people with red moles.
Very red.
I do get a lot of people come in to me for red moles, but actually they are not moles. So it's completely different. It's not pigment cells, it's blood vessels.
What? But they appear like moles though.